We know that doctors in places like Italy and New York have had to make some heartbreaking decisions about who lives and who dies. It hasn't come to that in Canada, but as Heather Yourex-West reports, ethics committees across the country are now helping frontline workers prepare for some difficult choices.
There is a reason that ventilators are also referred to as life support. Critically ill patients need them to survive. And with COVID-19, doctors are learning that the sooner patients are put on ventilation, the better their chance for recovery.
As more people have been entering hospital, we are seeing an increase in people going into ICU and being put on a ventilator sooner rather than later, because that seems to improve the outcomes.
But what happens if hospital resources are overwhelmed and there are simply not enough ventilators to go around? Hospitals in Canada are now preparing for those difficult decisions that may come if what's happened in Italy or New York were to happen here.
We're looking at trying to save as many lives as we can, as opposed to a particular life.
Dr. Timothy Christie is a medical ethicist who is part of an ethics committee in New Brunswick. Similar committees have been struck across the country to help guide physicians through the weeks ahead.
If there's a competition, say, where more than one person needs a particular thing like invasive mechanical ventilation, we would want to give it to the people with the best outcomes.
In Italy, doctors consider a patient's age, pre-existing medical conditions, even whether they have family to help them recover before deciding whether those patients will get a coveted ICU spot. In some U.S. states, intellectual disabilities are also considered.
I feel very strongly on this from a professional point of view, that we cannot do this in Canadian society.
Instead, ethicist Carrie Bowman believes priorities should be based solely on whether that patient is likely to recover, which may mean withdrawing life support earlier from patients who just aren't getting better.
That are not progressing and the ventilator is needed. That is going to be profoundly tough.
Tough decisions that may be needed to save the most lives as this virus spreads. Heather, Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
Keeping physically distant isn't how most humans are wired. We're social beings by nature. Now we're all being forced into this weird but essential new reality, staying apart but trying to stick together. As Eric Sorensen reports, where you live can make a big difference.
For just a moment here and there, it looks normal. But then you realize most people close together are partners or family, a household bubble out for a walk.
We're pretty much separating the household is separated from everyone else.
And everyone else is increasingly keeping their distance. Mary Jo Anderson stays near her husband, and that's it.
You're definitely able to distance yourself when you're walking. I notice even for this interview, we're very distant.
Physical distance is the new reality, but from above you see its experience differently. In rural Canada, working at home, seeing only family, can be a normal day. And where people have homes close together, even then there is space and backyards. The biggest adjustment may be downtown living, where thousands of people are stacked on top of one another. Think about elevators.
You have to be very careful about, so, press the button like with your elbow.
In a 30-story building, you can't help but converge on strangers sometimes.
And I just look at people and I'm like, you're a hotbed of germs, so I'm going to keep my distance.
There is something unnerving being in a big city and not bumping into people. Amidst the glass and concrete canyons, the usual attractions from theaters to big league sports, all the reasons to cluster downtown have vanished.
Why did I choose to live in a city? Because I love the people. I miss that the Ripley's and AGO and all of the great parts that make this city wonderful have to be closed down. It's hard. For us social beings, it's hard, right?
There is some advantage in big towns or small when where you live has space. Lisa Forte, with her dog Grace, sees that.
We're fortunate we're in a home in a small cul-de-sac, so we have a small yard, but it still is large enough for her to go out and for me to sit outside and putter around a little bit.
Still, it's an adjustment for everyone, so it's chin up downtown.
We're all adjusting to it at the same time. We are very much in this together, and there's a small comfort and hope in doing that.
And apart from your tight circle, keep your distance wherever you are.
We're not walking arm in arm any longer. No, just emotionally we walk arm in arm. Physically, we keep a little distance.
Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.